Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills versus Jacksonville Jaguars NFL Wildcard Playoff matchup. And each week, I like to collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there's always going to be some variation between various variables. However, there's always going to be little nuggets of truth that could become bigger nuggets of truth as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So, starting with this matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. When you look at the NFL stat basic comparison data, and basic comparison data essentially is the basics. It's looking at how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, and of course how the special teams is doing based on the various different team statistics. And when you look at this data, the data pretty heavily favors the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's get into some reasons as to why. First off, the Jaguars have just superior ability in terms of offensive score percentage. So basically the Jaguars are able to put more points on the board. And the Jaguars also have a better sack percentage, or basically the ability to prevent sacks is much higher with the Jaguars than it is with the Bills, who the Bills have one of the worst sack percentages in the NFL currently, actually. So not the best combination to go into this game with when you look at the Jaguars defense, which is incredible when it comes to their defensive offensive score percentage. They also have a very high turnover ratio, an extremely high sack percentage, an extremely high interception percentage. In fact, the Jaguars have one of the highest sack percentages in the NFL currently. So just looking at that information, you have a Bills team which has one of the worst sack percentages since 1998, and the Jaguars defense, which has one of the best abilities to create sacks since 1998. This is going to be a very tough football game either way for the Bills to try to win this, considering all those things that kind of stack against them. And on top of that, when you get to special teams data, the Jaguars have the better punt return yardage, better kick return yardage. Defensive punt return yardage more so goes to the Bills. Defensive kick return yardage goes to the Jaguars. Field goal percentage goes to the Bills. Extra point percentage goes to the Bills. And punting average goes to the Bills as well. As far as who has the better special teams, I actually would say the Bills do because the Bills have the better field goal percentage. Typically speaking, the best special teams data, like the most correlative special teams data point out of all the special teams data points is field goal percentage. And the Bills have the better field goal percentage here. So the Bills definitely have the better special teams. However, the Jaguars have a better offense and extremely big disparity between the Jaguars defense and the Bills defense. So in many ways, this is why the Jaguars are so heavily favored. The Jaguars just have a outstanding defense, a slightly above average offense, and all those factors just combine to give them a pretty big lead over the Bills. And this is also going to be in Jacksonville. So that added element of a home game is definitely going to add to things as well. Then, of course, when you get to some other sort of data points, so now we're getting into some different down and distance data, or micro data, if you will. When you look at the Bills offense versus Jaguars defense when it comes to completion percentage data, the Jaguars defense is pretty heavily favored here on first, second, and third down. So all three downs there definitely kind of favor the Jaguars for the most part here. And of course, we get to the Jaguars offense versus Bills defense with the complete percentage, where the Bills defense is favored on second and third down. So the Jaguars offense definitely has its share of issues, especially when it comes to second and third down. And I think the Bills defense might be able to come up with some pretty decent stops here and there if they're able to keep up their success in terms of second and third down. Then, of course, we get to rushing downs. This is the Bills rushing offense versus the Jaguars rushing defense, where the Jaguars defense is favored on first, second, and third down. It's important to note that this particular statistic or data point doesn't really have anything to do with yardage or explosive plays. It mainly just has to do with the ability to create first downs in various downs and distances. And again, in this particular area, the Jaguars are favored on first, second, and third down when it comes to that point. Then, of course, we get to rushing downs again with the Jaguars offense and Bills defense, where the Jaguars offense is favored on first and second down. The Bills rushing defense has just not been that great this year. It's been one of the worst, especially when it comes to first and second down. And I do think that will definitely help the Jaguars out to be pretty successful in terms of their rushing offense, which has struggled a bit this year, I would say. Then, of course, you get to passing downs, and this is the Bills passing offense versus Jaguars passing defense, where, as you can clearly see, the Jaguars defense is no joke. Pretty much across the board favored first, second, and third down. So I expect the Jaguars defense to make a pretty big statement in any game they're in, and especially this game. Then, of course, we get to the Jaguars offense versus Bills defense, where the Jaguars offense is favored on first and second down when it comes to the overall data. So definitely more so favors the Jaguars here in terms of their passing. Third down is definitely a big issue with the Jaguars. They've always been pretty poor on third down, and that's definitely an area where the Bills defense has a bit of an edge there. So that could be a pretty important matchup to watch. Is that particular down. However, the Jaguars still have been able to, convert relatively well on first and second down. And I think that might be able to carry over to some success in this game in terms of their passing game. Then, of course, we get to sack rates between the Bills offense and Jaguars defense. And across the board, the Jaguars defense is just dominant. First, second, and third down. The Jaguars have the second best first down sack rate, second down sack rate, and third down sack rate. So every single down, the Jaguars are pretty much the second best team in the NFL when it comes to the ability to sack the quarterback. So very, very high likelihood that the Jaguars will get sacks in this game, especially when it comes to first down, which has been the area where the Bills have struggled the most to prevent sacks. Then, of course, we get to sack rate for the Jaguars offense versus Bills defense, where the Jaguars are favored on first, second, and third down. So very low likelihood that the Jaguars will give up sacks compared to what the Bills have been able to do. And then, of course, you get to interception ratio between the Bills offense and Jaguars defense, where even though the Bills haven't really turned the football over as much, the Jaguars just have the advantage on first, second, and third down. So there's pretty decent likelihood that the Jaguars might be able to get some interceptions here as well. And then finally, you look at the Jaguars offense versus Bills defense, where the Bills defense is favored on second and third down. In this particular area, I would say that Blake Bortles probably will throw a pick here and there on third down. I mean, it's very likely based on how he's performed this season. So overall, general thoughts about this particular football game. I think this is a Jaguars victory. I think there's just a huge disparity between the Jaguars defense and the Bills defense. And the Jaguars defense and the Bills offense. The Bills offense is not exactly built to deal with something like this. This Jaguars defense is very, very impressive. And I think when you look at the overall impressions you get, when you look at the overall data and the overall results, the only thing that really could go wrong is that the Bills offense becomes really turnover heavy and turns this into like a really, really close football game, which has happened this year. But if the Bills offense is able to just execute the offense, do what it needs to do, take advantage of the turnovers, then I think it should be a pretty, sizable win for the Jaguars. So that's why I'm going to go Jaguars here. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you believe is going to win this football game? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Jimmetrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always notified when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.